to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Scam. Withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and it's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it'll make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA. Already Americans' economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together, so many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America. But I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent, for what's taking place. Millions of lives are being lost. With oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world. Interest rates should follow us. all over. The progress that you're seeing is happening because of our historic victory in a recent presidential election, one that has become quite well known throughout the world. I think a lot of things are happening to a lot of countries. They say that there's light shining all over the world since the election, and even countries that we aren't particularly friendly with are happy because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do, and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border, immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation once again. It's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it official, an official policy of the United States, that there are only 2 genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland, and there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the 250th anniversary of America's founding. I'm so honored to be president during that. That's been a big event. They've been talking about it for 10 years. We also have the World Cup, and I understand Gianni's in the room. Infantino. He was very instrumental in helping us get it. He's there with you someplace, I think. And I want to thank him for that. And then we have the Olympics coming up, which I was instrumental in getting also in my first term. And who would have known that by skipping a term, I would get the Olympics? I was upset. I said, you know, I got the Olympics to come and I won't be president. But it turned out through a stroke of luck, or whatever you might call it, that I'm going to be president during the World Cup and the Olympics and the 250th anniversary. So that's going to be 3 big events. And we've accomplished more in less than 4 days. We have really been working 4 days than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years. And we're just getting started. It's really an amazing thing to see. And the spirit and the light over our country has been incredible. Under the last administration, our nation has suffered greatly, but we're going to bring it back and make it greater, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I want to thank everybody for being with you. I would have been there myself, except the inauguration was 2 days ago. I thought it might be a little bit quick to make it the first stop, but we'll get there one day. We hope to get there. But I do appreciate, I heard the audience is fantastic, and many of my friends are in the audience, and I will be taking questions now from some very distinguished people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for that very powerful speech. And I think you could hear the applause all the way from Davos to the White House. But next year it will be even better, because then you can get the applause here in Davos. So we wish you welcome to our village next year. We hope to see you.
Thank you very much.
So we also know, Mr. President, that you open up for interaction here. We have a great panel with some of the most distinguished business people in the world. Let me start with someone that you know really well, that I think is almost a neighbor of you in Florida. Mr. Steve Schwarzman, Chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Blackstone Group. So, Steve, floor is yours.
Well, Mr. President, I'm sure the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia will be really glad you gave this speech today. You've had the busiest 4 days that anybody can imagine, and congratulations for that. My question is about some of the things I've observed here at Davos. It's a terrific forum. I've met lots of people, as usual. I think I've been here 30 years. And a lot of the European business people have expressed enormous frustration with the regulatory regime in the EU. And they attribute slower growth rates here because of numerous factors, but especially because of regulations. And you've taken a completely different approach in this area. And if you could explain the theory of what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and what you expect the outcome to be, I'd appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. And congratulations, Steve. You're a friend of mine, but on a great career. You have had an amazing career, and it continues. I just want to congratulate you. Very inspirational to a lot of people. I want to talk about the EU, because you mentioned specifically that I've also had a lot of friends and leaders of countries. I've gotten to know them all my first term and a little bit during this period of 4 years, and know them well, like them a lot, but they're very frustrated because of the time everything seems to take to get approved, environmental impact statements for things that you shouldn't even have to do that, and many, many other ways that it takes. And I'm going to give you a quick little example. In the private life, my beautiful private life, before I had all these things happening, the world is a little different. I had a nice, simple life. You knew that. But when I had that simple life, I did projects. And I had a big project in Ireland, and it had to get approval. on something that would have made it even better. And I got the approval from Ireland in a period of a week. And it was a very, very, very efficient, good approval. And they informed me, though, the problem is you're going to have to get it from the EU, and we think that'll take 5 to 6 years. And I said, you have to be kidding. And this was before politics. And I said, wait a minute, it's not that important. I don't want to go 5 or 6 years, but it would have been a big investment. It would have been nice, and it would have been good for the project. And I sent the people to the EU to see if they could speed it up. And basically, it was a 5 or 6 year wait just to get a simple approval that Ireland gave me in a period of literally not much more than a week. And I realized right then, that was the first time I really was involved with the EU, but I realized right then that's a problem. And I didn't even bother applying to do it. Or if I did, I pulled it very quickly. I have to be very accurate because I don't want to be criticized. He did apply, actually. No, I want to be very accurate. So I don't think I did, but if I did, I pulled it very quickly. It was just something you couldn't wait 5 years or 6 years to get an approval. So a lot of, in a very big business sense, a lot of people are claiming that's the problem. From the standpoint of America, the EU treats us very, very unfairly, very badly. They have a large tax that we know about, and a VAT tax, and it's a very substantial one. They don't take essentially don't take our farm products, and they don't take our cars, yet they send cars to us by the millions. They put tariffs on things that we want to do. Like, for instance, I think they actually, in terms of, these are non-economic or non-monetary tariffs, and those are very bad. And they make it very difficult to bring products into Europe, and yet they expect to be selling, and they do sell their products in the United States. So we have, hundreds of billions of dollars of deficits with the EU, and nobody's happy with it, and we're going to do something about it, but nobody's happy with it. So I think the EU has to speed up their process. Friends of mine that are in some of the nations within the EU, great people, they want to be able to compete better, and you can't compete when you can't go through the approval process fast. There's no reason why it can't go faster. So, I'm trying to be constructive because I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe, but the process is a very cumbersome one, and they do treat the United States of America very, very unfairly with the VAT taxes and all of the other taxes they impose. One other, just to finish up, I got a call from the head of a major airline, one of the biggest airlines in the world, and he said, sir, could you help us? What? Landing in Europe is brutal. They charge us fees for everything, and it's so unfair. I said, how does it compare to China? He said, it's much worse. And the other thing, as you know, they took court cases with Apple, and they supposedly won a case that most people didn't think was much of a case. They won 15 or 16 billion from Apple. They won billions from Google. I think they're after Facebook for billions and billions. These are American companies, whether you like them or not. They're American companies, and they shouldn't be doing that. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a form of taxation. So we have some very big complaints with the EU. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We'll now go to one of your friends in the EU, Patrick Pouyanné. He's the chairman CEO of Total Energies. I guess you have a question ready, Patrick, for the president.
Mr. President, as we understand, energy is at the top of your agenda, and it's an honor for me to represent the energy industry tonight. In this panel, Total Energies is indeed the fourth largest oil and gas and electricity company in the world. I will not ask you a question about the oil price. It's quite clear what you expect from us. I will go to gas more. And our company is the largest #1 exporter LNG from the US company. We are a strong contributor to, and we invest in a mammoth LNG projects in Texas, $20 billion. It's far from 200, but it's $20 billion. And we contribute with that to security of supply to Europe as we export this LNG to Europe. Some experts fear that if there are too many projects developed in the US on LNG, this could have an inflationary impact on the US domestic gas price. And they recommend a pause on these projects. I would ask you the following question. What are your views about such a pause on investments on LNG in the US? What would happen if you would observe an increased domestic gas price because of these exports? And final question, which is important for Europe, would you agree to guarantee security of supply of US LNG to Europe?
Well, on the last part of your question, yes, I would. I would make sure that you get it. If we make a deal, we make a deal, you'll get it. Because a lot of people do have that problem. They make a deal and then it can't get supplied because of war-type problems and other problems. So we would absolutely do that. LNG is very interesting because when I took office for the first term, one of the first things I looked at was there were two very massive plants in Louisiana, a state that has been very good to me, won it by many, many points. And I felt strongly indebted to it, actually. And they said there are two plants that have been under environmental consideration for more than 10 years. And they were costing, as you say, you know how expensive those plants are, but they were costing like 12 billion and I think 14 or 15 billion, but they couldn't get their permits. They were in review for years, many, many years, like a decade or more. And I said, so ridiculous. I know so much about that because in the construction industry, I had to go through it too, but I got good at it after a while. But I saw the projects, and you're talking about a total investment of 25 to $30 billion, and it looked like it was going to end. They couldn't get their permits, and I got them done in less than a week. It was done, completed. In fact, when they called them to announce that it was done, the countries, largely countries, Japan was involved and another country and some very big investors, they couldn't believe it. They actually couldn't believe it. And I said, just do yourself one favor. Don't pay any consultants, because the only one that got it done was me. I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and for the world, but the consultants had nothing to do with it. You know, the consultants go in and they say, give us millions of dollars because Trump did it. Nobody called me about it. I just heard it was a problem for years. And I got it done because it was the right thing to do for the U.S. and the right thing to do for beyond. It had to do with energy, very important. So I think it's very important. I think I disagree with one. I think the more that you do, the lower the price is going to go. And what I'd like to see is rapid approvals. We're going to give very rapid approvals in the United States, like with the AI plants, talking to many people want to build them. That's going to be a very big thing. We're going to build electric generating facilities. They are going to build. I'm going to get them the approval. Under emergency declaration, I can get the approvals done myself without having to go through years of waiting. And the big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it, because it's a very competitive, it'll be very competitive with China and others. So I'm going to give emergency declarations so that they can start building them almost immediately. And I think it was largely my idea because nobody thought this was possible. It wasn't that they were not smart, because they're the smartest. But I told them that what I want you to do is build your electric generating plant right next to your plant as a separate building connected. And they said, wow, you're kidding. And I said, no, I'm not kidding. You don't have to hook into the grid, which is old and, could be taken out. If it's taken out, they wouldn't have any way to get any electricity. So we are going to allow them to go on a very rapid basis to build their plant, build the electric generating plant. They can fuel it with anything they want, and they may have coal as a backup, good, clean coal, If there were a problem with a pipe coming in, as an example, you're going with gas, oil or gas, and a pipe gets blown up or for some reason doesn't work, there are some companies in the U.S. that have coal sitting right by the plant so that if there's an emergency, they can go to that short-term basis and use our very clean coal. So that's something else that a lot of people didn't even know about. But nothing can destroy coal, not the weather, not a bomb, nothing. It might make it a little smaller, might make it a little different shape, but coal is very strong as a backup. It's a great backup to have that facility, and it wouldn't cost much more money. And we have more coal than anybody. We also have more oil and gas than anybody. So we're going to make it so that the plants will have their own electric generating facilities attached right to their plant. They don't have to worry about a utility. They don't have to worry about anything. And we're going to get very rapid approvals.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. President. We'll now go to another CEO that you know very well, Brian Moynihan, the CEO and chair of Bank of America.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, and congratulations, and obviously an eventful week for you and your family. If you remember 5 years ago, you came here and we walked among 150 CEOs from all over the world, and you engaged with them about your policies and your procedures. But this year you're not here, and yet this week was eventful from the orders that you mentioned earlier, literally a wave of orders coming out on immigration, on trade, and many other matters. And so as a representative of the United States here, we got a lot of questions about what does all this mean and how would the president square this with his clear focus on growth, prosperity, market growth, stock market growth, a good bond market, and bringing down prices. So how do you think about the impact of all these orders and how fast they come out, and how you're going to balance them with that scorecard of being successful in both continuing GDP growth, bringing down inflation, and also having a good stock price appreciation for the American citizen?
Well, I think it's going to actually bring down inflation. It's going to bring up jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs. We're going to have a lot of companies moving in. You know, Brian, we're at 21%. It was at 40%, and I got it down to 21%, the corporate tax. And it was actually, if you look at state and city, it was in many cases much higher than 40%. I got it down to 21%. And now we're going to bring it down from 21 to 15% if, there's a big if you make your product in the U.S. So we're going to have the lowest, just about the lowest rate. It'll be, the 21 is on the low side worldwide. The 15 is about as low as it gets. And by far the lowest of a large country, a large, you know, rich, powerful country, by far, not even a contest. So we're going to bring it down to 15% if you make your product in the USA. So that's going to create a tremendous buzz. We're also probably going back to the one-year deduction where we deduct, you know, we did that originally, and that was amazing what the impact that had, the one-year deduction, which built up over a period of time, and then it expires. But we're going to go back to that when we do the renewal of the Trump tax plan. We have to get Democrats to approve it. But, you know, if the Democrats didn't approve it, I don't know how they can survive with about a 45% tax increase, because that's what it would be. And so I think they're going to be. We've been working along with them pretty well. I think it's very hard for a political group to say, let's charge people 45% more. So I think we're in good shape. But we're actually doing a reduction for business and small businesses where you're going to bring it down to 15%, which is really something. And by the way, speaking of you, and you've done a fantastic job, but I hope you start opening your bank to conservatives, because many conservatives complain that the banks are not allowing them to do business within the bank. And that included a place called Bank of America. They don't take conservative business. And I don't know if the regulators mandated that because of Biden or what, but you and Jamie and everybody, I hope you're going to open your banks to conservatives, because what you're doing is wrong.
Mr. President, I'll say that your friend Gianni said hello, told me to tell you hello, and we look forward to sponsoring the World Cup when it comes, both this summer for the club and next year. So thank you for getting that for the United States.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now go to Anna Butin. She's the executive chairman of Banco Santander, one of the big European banks, and also in the U.S. So, Anna.
Mr. President, congratulations on a historic victory. I believe you don't know me as well as my fellow panelists, so a few words. Santander is one of the largest banks in the world by number of customers, 170 million. That's more than my friend Brian or my friend Jamie have. And those,
They fixed the regulation.
that's coming, that's coming.
That was cheeky.
We're a big investor in the United States. We have many million customers, 12,000 employees. We're one of the largest auto lenders. And we recently launched a fully digital bank called Open Bank. We strongly believe banks have a pivotal role in the economy, and we can accelerate growth and help many more customers. That's what we're doing in the United States. So, as Brian pointed out, we very much welcome your focus on deregulation and reducing bureaucracy. So my question is, what are your priorities in this regard, and how fast is this going to happen? Thank you very much.
I think it's going to, thank you and congratulations. I know very much about your bank, and you've done a fantastic job. Congratulations. We are going to move very quickly. We've moved very quickly. We've done things in the last 3 days that nobody thought were possible to do in years. And it's all taking effect. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy, a huge positive impact. Money was being wasted on crazy things. I mean, the Green New Deal was such a total disgrace, how that was perpetrated. And it was conceived of by people that were average students, less than average students, I might add, and never even took a course in energy or the environment. It was just a game. Remember, the world was going to end in 12 years. Remember that? Well, the 12 years has come and gone. It was going to end. It was going to all foam into earth. But, you know, the time has come. These people, and they really scared the Democrats large. I can't say the Republicans. The Republicans maybe could have fought harder to stop it, but it's been a tremendous waste of money. You know, during my 4 years, we had the cleanest air, we had the cleanest water, and yet we had the most productive economy in the history of our country. We had the most productive economy until COVID came. We had the most productive in the history of our country by far, and actually, you can look worldwide. We were beating everybody from China to everybody else. So, and we think we really now, with what we have learned and all of the other things that have taken place, we think we can even far surpass that, actually far, far surpass it. But we do, one thing we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, you know, just as an example, with Mexico, we're dealing with Mexico, I think, very well. And we're just, you know, we just want to be treated fairly with other nations, because there's hardly a nation in the world, and I blame this on us, and I blame it on politicians that, for some reason, mostly it's stupidity, but you could also say other reasons, but mostly stupidity. They've allowed other nations to take advantage of the U.S., and we can't allow that to happen anymore. You know, we have debt. It's a very small debt when you compare it to the value of the assets that we have, but we don't want to do that. We want to just have debt be obliterated, and we'll be able to do that fairly rapidly. And a lot of good things are going to happen. And honestly, good things are going to happen for the world, and good things are going to happen for the people that are dealing with us, allies and beyond allies. One thing very important, I really would like to be able to meet with President Putin soon and get that war ended. And that's not from the standpoint of economy or anything else. It's from the standpoint of millions of lives are being wasted. Beautiful young people are being shot in the battlefield. You know, the bullet, very flat land, as I said, and the bullet goes, there's no hiding. And a bullet, the only thing going to stop the bullet is a human body. And you have to see, I've seen pictures of what's taken place. It's a carnage, and we really have to stop that war. That war is horrible. And I'm not talking economy. I'm not talking economics. I'm not talking about natural resource. I'm just talking about there's so many young people being killed in this war. And that's not including the people that have been killed as the cities are being, knocked down building by building. So we really should get that stopped. Likewise, in the Middle East, I think we've made a lot of progress in the Middle East. And I think that's going to come along pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We know that the most consequential relationship in the world is between the U.S. and China. U.S. 28% of the global economy, China close to 20%. That's almost half of the global GDP. And we know that you called President Xi Jinping last Friday. We heard that you had a good discussion. How do you see the relationship between the U.S. and China in the next 4 years under your leadership?
He called me, but I see it very good. I think that we're going to have a very good relationship. All we want is fairness. We just want a level playing field. We don't want to take advantage. We've been having massive deficits with China. Biden allowed it to get out of hand. He's $1.1 trillion deficit. It's ridiculous. And it's just an unfair relationship. And we have to make it just fair. We don't have to make it phenomenal. We have to make it a fair relationship. Right now, it's not a fair relationship. The deficit is massive, as it is with other countries, a lot of Asian countries, actually. But we have deficits that are very big, and we can't keep doing that. So we're not going to keep doing that. But I like President Xi very much. I've always liked him. We always had a very good relationship. It was very strained with COVID coming out of Wuhan. Obviously, that strained it. I'm sure it strained it with a lot of people, but that strained our relationship. But we always had a great relationship, I would say, and we look forward to doing very well with China and getting along with China. Hopefully, China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia, Ukraine. They have a great deal of power over that situation, and we'll work with them. And I mentioned that during our phone conversation with President Xi. And hopefully we could work together and get that stopped. We'd like to see denuclearization. In fact, with President Putin prior to an election result, which was frankly ridiculous, we were talking about denuclearization of our two countries, and China would have come along. China has a much smaller right now nuclear armament than us, or field than us, but they're going to be catching it at some point over the next 4 or 5 years. And I will tell you that President Putin really liked the idea of cutting way back on nuclear. And I think the rest of the world, we would have gotten them to follow. And China would have come along too. China also liked it. Tremendous amounts of money are being spent on nuclear. And the destructive capability is something that we don't even want to talk about today because you don't want to hear it. It's too depressing. So we want to see if we can denuclearize, and I think that's very possible. And I can tell you that President Putin wanted to do it. He and I wanted to do it. We had a good conversation with China. They would have been involved, and that would have been an unbelievable thing for the planet.
Mr. President, when you're back here in Davos next year, will there be then a peace agreement with Ukraine and Russia by then?
Well, you're going to have to ask Russia. Ukraine is ready to make a deal. Just so you understand, this is a war that should have never started. If I were president, it would never have started. This is a war that should have never, ever been started. And it wasn't started during there was never even talk about it. I knew that it was the apple of President Putin's eye, but I also knew that there was no way he was going in, and he wasn't going to go in. And then when I was out, bad things happened, bad things were said, a lot of stupidity all around, and you end up with what you have. Now you have all these bombed out cities. They look like demolition sites with many people killed. I think the thing that you'll see about Ukraine is that far more people have died than is being reported. And I've seen that. But far, far more people have died. When you look at a city that's become a demolition site where big buildings have been collapsed by missiles hitting them and everything else. And they say one person was slightly injured. No. Many people were killed. Those are big buildings. I was surprised at how that was my business. These are buildings that go 2 and 3 blocks long. They're 20 stories high. They're big, powerful buildings, and they were knocked down. And there were a lot of people in those buildings that announced that 2 people were injured. That's not true. So I think you're going to find that there were many more people killed in Ukraine in the Ukraine war than anybody has any idea. But if you look now, so many of the people being killed are soldiers just facing each other with guns, rifles, and drones, the new form of warfare, drones. And it's a very sad thing to see. And when you see pictures of the fields that I see, nobody wants to see it. You'll never be the same.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, on behalf of all the 3,000 participants here in Davos. We really underline that joining us the third day in your presidency, live taking questions here is so appreciated, and we are already ready for receiving you next year in person. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus, and hello to everyone in beautiful
Welcome back. Long day, but a lot of news has happened today. So sorry that was on a bit of a loop. I was doing some house chores. So, all right. So we got through a lot this morning. Just to review. Well, actually, let me say a quick hello to you guys. I do apologize. I had a Skype number ready, and now I'm looking, and it says Skype numbers are no longer available. So I'll try to figure that out for the next one. We are trying to get a call-in show. Anyways, okay, so this morning, just to review, we had JJ Carroll on, my former co-host of Unrestricted Invasion. By the way, I'm Brian O'Shea of dailyclout.io. Make sure you visit us there. Check out all of our other shows. Naomi Wolf's Outspoken, Shannon Joy has her show going there, Melissa Blazek, lots of good stuff. And that's dailyclout.io. Okay, so what happened today? The Davos thing, I didn't even know that was going to happen. That was really amazing. The way he called out the Bank of America guy was awesome. It's interesting that President Trump mentioned the drones, because if you were here this morning with me, you saw that when Zelensky went on, he was bragging about their drone production, and now President Trump just put a pin in that balloon for him. In my opinion, and I don't know, but in my opinion, and just in the world of international politics, when the most powerful president in the history of our country, which I really believe President Trump is now, when he kind of looks down on the idea of like drones being these deadly weapons, it's going to be really tough for Zelensky to get other countries to buy into that. Certainly, President Trump just made it clear that the U.S. will not be funding that or probably anything. Okay. So we talked about Zelensky this morning. We also talked about, oh man, so many things. JJ Carroll was on, so we talked about what's going on right now with ICE. You may have seen on like Fox Local in Boston, they've been doing massive raids all throughout Boston, rounding people up, and these illegals are losing their minds. Well, there's a rumor JJ was able to squash, and that was that that ICE is giving out a $750 reward to turn in, information leading to the rounding up of illegal aliens. That's not true. JJ spent 24 years with ICE. He also has active contacts at ICE. That's not true. It's not how they work, as he said, but he did want to say they still have their tip sheet. You can turn in tips. And if there's a reward for one of these illegal aliens, which you could probably find on the FBI website, once they update the wanted list and actually put people on it, you can get that reward money, of course. Another thing that's going on really quickly, and I promised her I would put this out there, but if you are on X at 8 o'clock, if you do spaces, I highly recommend this space. This is Kimmy, and her handle is Kim Maga Gal 2. I've been on a lot of her spaces. She gets some tremendous speakers on there. So let me just share that screen with you so you can see it. I'll probably be on that space, so this will be a pretty short stream tonight. We did 4.5 hours this morning, so that was a lot, but that's okay. That's what I wanted to do. So, okay, so this is tonight. You could just go there. You'll see this. If you're not used to X, you'll see the circle around her. But again, great spaces hosted by Kimmy, and you can go on there and just follow her rules, and you'll have a good time. Tonight she is going to have Erica Donalds, and there she is. And so that's something. Again, she has a lot of big political figures on there, so I'm looking forward to this one. I'll probably pop in there for a little while. If you've never done a space, I don't want to lecture anyone, but I really like these hosts, so I want to make sure people don't get offended by them. Just, you'll get the mic. When you're not talking, make sure you mute it. We're going to start running spaces for Daily Cloud as well, but make sure you mute your mic until you get called on, just so you don't have the background noise and all that. And, just the key thing with these spaces that you have to be careful of is there are a lot of actual CCP trolls that go in there. And there's one that wherever I go onto a space, he goes onto a space. So if I go onto her space tonight, you'll see him pop right up right as I'm talking. Okay. And we've almost become not friends, but kind of like the way the Germans and the Americans had the snowball fight. It's kind of like that relationship I have with whoever this guy is. But he will try to get people pissed off, and he wants to get people yelling at each other. Their whole goal is to take people away from the topic. So don't get baited by that. Don't get baited by anyone. There's also a lot of left-wing trolls that go right into the spaces. Don't get baited. If they say something mean, just say, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way. Kim and her crew will police them. She will take away their mics. She will kick them off the space. When she's running these spaces, just like Bill Elmore, another great space host, when she's running these spaces, she does have 2 other people working with her, and they are going right through, all the people on the space and just booting the people that have come and disrupted spaces before. But she runs a great space. Make sure you keep your answers, 60 seconds to 2 minutes. You don't want to hog the mic. Yeah, that's it. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. Another thing going on right now is all the J6 prisoners got released. Jake Lang, who has been on my show a couple times, he got released. So we're going to try to get him back so we could talk to him finally in person. Jake's really interesting. We've had some amazing conversations, and some of the stuff he laid out in our last episode, I'm going to call that episode up. Some of the stuff that he laid out in the last episode, honestly, it's got to be human rights violations. So let me see here. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Okay, so this is, and by the way, if you haven't done this already, please go to Rumble. You can find the link in my tweet, and hit that follow button. I really appreciate that a lot. But you can go here and find all of the videos. That's us live right now, obviously. Really, really amazing conversations. Also, the bond yields that President Trump mentioned in that that address to Davos. Go to this episode here. Birch Gold is one of our sponsors, but he really, Philip Patrick, their precious metals specialist, really laid out what's going on with these crazy bond yields. It's a very interesting episode. I will grab that URL and get that up for you. Put it in the description. I'll put it in the chat as well. So you definitely want to check that out. It's I know people don't usually like sponsored content, but I will say this: I learned a lot from this guy, and this is one of the more interesting conversations we had. And we got into Ghana and why that's important to the U.S., which I thought was interesting considering the fires and the mayor going over to Ghana at such a horrible time. So yeah, here's my last interview we did with Jake Lang. Definitely check that out. I'll drop that into the chat as well. It's a very good interview. He kept getting cut off. It's weird because like when we'd say things they don't want to hear on the prison, they would just cut off the phone. So that was frustrating, but he did have his friend with him who was not in prison, and he was able to keep that going. So I'm looking forward to having an interview with Jake when he's not calling in from a phone, and I just have his still picture on here. But the stuff you'll hear in this will really piss you off, and it's something that, you regulars that come to this show, that's something that needs to be investigated. The treatment of these J6ers by the prison, not even so much by the other prisoners, by the corrections officials. So that's something I would love for any of you to hop into and check that out. So let me explain something really quickly. When I say investigate things, a lot of people say, yeah, but the authorities are doing it. Well, we can't really do that. Yes, you can. So the way it works, so I was a private investigator for a long time. It was something I used to moonlight doing when I was a government contractor, because I had a really it wasn't a great schedule, but it seemed great at the time when I took it. I had a 7-day on, 7-day off schedule. Saw a movie that had a guy with a PI license. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'd like to have a PI license. So I looked into it. Make some extra money when I'm not working. I mean, 7 days off is a long time. So I got my PI license, and in the DC area in Northern Virginia, I was doing exceptionally well. And I started making more money doing that than my government contracting job, which was very lucrative. In doing that, what I learned about the relationship between PIs and cops, or just private citizen investigators, you don't need to be licensed to, do investigative research, is the police are so busy and there's so many cases that are on their plate that they're not going to look into most cases. So for instance, theft and things like that, they're not going to look into many things that are really anything that's under 500,000 in terms of burglaries and stuff. Of course, they look into murders. Those are big cases, but they're not going to look into things that don't have a very clearly defined hypothesis. Like, I believe there is human rights violations in the Bureau of Prisons, as demonstrated by the J6. They're not going to look into that. The FBI is probably not going to look into that unless citizens come forth and they have a well-sourced piece of research. Okay. Now, a lot of these firms you see, places like Kroll, which is now called, I think, K2, some of the firms that have contracted me, a lot of them will get hired by like a class action group, a bunch of people suing someone, and to do research on those type of cases. And what you're doing is you're trying to get the ball down the road for the police or the feds, where you can say, okay, look, I've got this huge piece of research. Here you go. Please investigate this. You've done all the heavy lifting, so they don't have to do a lot of work getting it approved for an official investigation. Kind of like a grand jury investigation, except you're in a lot of cases your stuff's gonna go to a grand jury first, but nothing will happen if you do nothing. I'd love to investigate them all. I'm one guy, so that's why I always try to explain to you what I'm doing here. So definitely watch this interview with Jake, and if you think that's something you'd want to research, do, and I can get you either on the air, not just here, but other places. And if you don't want to do that, you want me to present your report, I'll present it and I'll give you the due credit for it. Because the goal is to get all of you and all of me working and getting things going, these things going. and getting them going now, because as I see it, we have 2 to 4 years potentially before things go south again. So it's important that we get as many of these corrupt systems dismantled as we can while Trump is in office, and while he has that very powerful team around him that he's building in office. The more we can take down, the more, think of it like a bunch of Archer towers, right? If you saw the movie Braveheart, what did he say? They stormed one of the forts, I think in York, and then they said, "What do you want us to do with the fort?" He said, "Burn it." You're taking out that corrupt infrastructure. That way it can't be used against you as easily in the future. That's why this is important. That's why I do what I do. That's why I do this in my own time, on my own dime. And you're here on your own time. So, if you feel like you can't make a difference, you certainly can. Okay, you certainly can. And you don't need to have my background to make a difference. You don't need to be super talented to be a good investigator. You know what you have to be is diligent. Diligent and lots of attention to detail and dedicated. Okay, and if you have trouble focusing on one thing, then I recommend you go to one of my last interviews I had with Ora Nadrick. And Ora is a mindful coach and a survivor of those wildfires. But this is a really good interview too. Mindfulness is not sitting around humming and making Himalayan throat singing sounds. It's being focused. It's being mindful. So focused on the task you're doing. All right. So Ora really is a great person. She's a friend. She used to be a contributor at Daily Clout, but when she explains it, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. And it will, relearning how to be mindful. And I say relearning because we all have it. We all start with it, like little kids with a Lego set. They will focus right in on that. That's what has been taken away from modern society, is the ability to focus or focus well. And so a good daily routine of just mindfulness, whether that's how you walk the dog or, shooting a gun or whatever you do, as long as you're focused on that thing in that moment, you're reteaching your brain how to focus on one task. And that's the difference between people that get things done and people that don't. Okay. I'm somewhere in the middle because I have some pretty severe ADHD from some military stuff. But the mindfulness thing really, really helps. So definitely watch that and go through all my episodes by all means. Like them, share them. And there's a lot of open cases there. And again, the goal is to serve the authorities a case on a silver platter. That's what you want to do. Okay. If any, PI, if any old PIs come up to you, because this would happen to me, if they come up to you and say, "Hey, you can't do that. You're not licensed. You don't need to be licensed to do investigative research." That's the thing. You don't need to be. You don't even need to be licensed to go out and take pictures of things. Okay. Now you can't sell yourself as a private investigator. You can't sell services with the word investigation or private investigator or detective in them if you're not licensed in most states. But anyone can go out and take pictures of things, investigate things in I always say primary collection type of way. That's what reporters do. It's the same thing you're doing. And if you need more tips on this, just reach out to me. I'll tell you how to get started. Okay. We won't go into that tonight, but I will tell you how I get started with cases. And once you get a few cases, especially in the last 4 years, there's so many sections of cases that you have to think about. You got to think about, okay, the J6 cases, that subject, the mRNA shots, health freedom, the border, crime, corruption, and on drones, and on and on and on, the fires. Just pick one. Pick one that you want to do and do it. Okay. And then what you'll find is, especially if you're investigating things at the national, international, or even county level, every time you do an investigation, if you're being diligent and mindful in the way you do it, you're really increasing the amount of knowledge you have in a particular area. And then when you do your next case, you might go from fires to, say, border. Now all of a sudden you're going to know a ton of stuff about the border, about the Immigration Nationalization Act, you name it. And if you're a member of my audience and you need, you're serious and you send me some stuff, so I know you're serious, I'm happy to introduce you to my contacts. Absolutely. One thing about me, I'm not here to get famous. I am just here to give you the skills I learned in as much as I can, or at a minimum, the findings I get, or just introduce you to some leads that you may not have known existed. So there we are. All right, checking the comments here. And then I do have to get ready for the space. Public docs, integrate it. Yep, hey, DCF Press. Now here's a great example. So DCF Press, that's also his name on X. He does massive, massive research projects. Check out his stuff. He really does. I'll put it this way. I would not want him looking into me if I was a bad guy, because talk about diligent. This guy is he's like the Rain Man of investigative research. No offense, DCF Press. And I'm just calling up your X. But yeah, check out his stuff. He goes deep and he goes wide, man. But it's definitely worth looking into. Here's one of his books, and he self-publishes just to get his findings out. It'd be great if everyone, or as many people as possible, were doing what DCF Press is doing, because someone may never read that, but a lot of people will, and he just keeps pushing it into the right hands, so that's really good. So I should have him on sometime too. It's been a while. Great guy. We've talked on the phone. He did some work for Daily Clout for Naomi Wolf, and can't say enough about him. All right. Hope you enjoyed that. DCF Press. Give me a thumbs up if you heard that, hopefully. But giving you credit where credit is due, and you see he's going. He's already in the zone, as you could see from his comments. Okay. Please invite Dr. David Martin. I can accountable criminal cartel. Yeah, I would like to have David Martin on, Undercover Angel. I actually met David Martin at CPAC. So I'd seen him on TV or on the different things, and I don't know much about that kind of work, so it's not really one of the areas I've focused on, really. My wife has, Naomi Wolf. She's Daily Cloud has been almost dead set on the health freedom and vaccines. I have not, but I do have people who are doing their own type of research in an area I might not know about. So yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, David Martin's very hard to get, but yeah, I'd love to have him on the show. We met, I really liked him. Yeah, so there he is right there. Yeah, and we follow each other. So yeah, I'll look over. If you want to send me some links, Undercover Angel, and some of his recent work, that'd be great. But yeah, I liked him when I met him. So yeah, I'd love to have him on there. So thank you. That's a good tip. Okay. Space is cool. No drones for you. Savage Trump. Well, here's the thing, DC Press. I hope they don't ban those DJI drones. Yes, I know the CCP is all behind DJI, but I really like my drone. It's so much fun. I mean, talk about my mindful escapism. My drone is awesome, and I got it for my birthday, and I have like 3 or 4 drones. I'm kind of a big kid when it comes to that stuff. I got into drones obviously because I was doing investigations. They come in handy. I would take a drone. Let's say I had to watch an area because I knew someone was going to leave. What would happen is I'd get there and one house was on a hill and it had one driveway coming down one side of the hill, one coming down the other side. I'm like, oh man, it's just me. What do I do? So what I did is I bought a drone, before that case, and I just bought a bunch of extra batteries and I just popped it in the air and let it hover there, way up there, so I could see. So I'm watching one driveway, I've got the drone watching everything, and so I was able to see which thing the guy was coming out. And then I even have the RC cars. I have a bunch of RC cars that go super fast, like one goes like 55 miles an hour. I bought those for the range because I was working a job for a Native American company out on Native American lands, and if you go trespassing on a lot of those lands, you will get shot. So I had to figure out how to go investigate a couple things without trespassing or taking that risk. Yes, I could have ghillie suited it and just crawled on. I didn't want to do that because, you know, you might screw up. So I just got one of these Traxxas cars is the name of the company. And went to Michael's Arts and Crafts and covered it with burlap and glue on the outer the shell, and just kind of rolled that thing down there with a GoPro and got the footage I needed. So it was pretty good. And I did have one guy try to like go at it one time, and I just took off because the one I tweaked, it can do like 55 miles an hour over anything. All right, that's a bit of a tangent. That's not very mindful of me, but yeah, check them all out. There's some interesting stuff, and I'll even end it with my drone video when I end this tonight. Okay, so where are we? Oh yeah, you're welcome. Glad you heard that. Okay, so the other thing that happened today. Oh yeah, that's right. Apparently, I heard that President Trump signed an order to declassify all the MLK and MLK records and the JFK records. That's great. That's amazing. So, can't wait to see how that pans out. Maybe we'll find out who the hell was flying all those big damn drones too. Because apparently there's something going through Congress right now about passing a bill to ban drones or something like that. So I think obviously they know who it is. Trump said they did. So we'll see. Okay, what I want to cover really quickly, because you all came here, and it's and thank you for everyone that came here this morning. All right, so you know that Zelensky at his Davos address, I'm not going to play it again because we played a lot of that this morning, was whining about we need a, here we go. You know, he wants an international peacekeeping force. Okay, which is ridiculous. He's gotten so much money from us, and there's so many people who've died on his watch. And I'm like, but when I watched this the speech this morning, and he gave the speech yesterday. I just watched it today though. When he gave the speech, he's kind of bragging about how big his military is. Then he's kind of telling the EU members, like, you know, and you need to spend this much of your GDP, blah blah blah. I would be like, dude, we fund you. You don't tell us how to spend our money. We tell you how to spend yours. So there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Okay. This guy can't manage anything. Okay. The reason why he needs more troops is because troops are fleeing the country, potential troops, or they're dying. Okay. People are deserting in droves, and they have been since the get-go, to the point where this guy had to do like press gangs, probably still is. But there was something interesting in here. Most significantly, Zelensky proceeded, and this is on unheard.com from yesterday, I believe. Most significantly, Zelensky proceeded to make perhaps his boldest demand in recent months. He declared that not only would Ukraine refuse to reduce the size of its military, one of the Kremlin's key demands, it would also require a vast international troop presence to keep the peace, citing a quote-unquote minimum figure of 200,000 men. Well, Zelensky, got to give you one of those. Presumably, as bitter divisions about the past and future of Russo-Ukrainian relations remains entrenched, any peace deal would require security assistance from the international community. That's not true. That's not true at all. You know, that's made on the assumption. Okay, so that's like some propaganda right there. They said, presumably, as bitter divisions about the past and future of Russo-Ukrainian relations remain entrenched, any peace deal would require security assurances from the international community. Okay, let's just be clear here. Okay, let's be real. We are the international community when it comes to putting troops on the ground. Okay? What they want is they just want to always keep U.S. troops there, just like Germany caused a big kerfuffle when Trump wanted to pull everyone out of Germany. Because then they don't have to pay for military. So they want us to do it for them. They want us to provide their security. So no, you don't need a peace deal. You just need a strong president that neither Putin nor Zelensky is going to test the limits of. Okay. You will notice there was no invasion when Trump was in office, or even when Obama was in office. Okay. So that's BS, but it's unheard. What do you want? Okay. So, and by the way, bitter divisions about the past and future, those divisions go back hundreds of years. This is, that's just bad journalism. Some European leaders have not shied away from the idea of sending peacekeeping troops to a post-war Ukraine. However, concrete commitments have yet to be made. France and Poland, two of Ukraine's most vocal and active supporters in the EU, have made encouraging noises about security guarantees and imminent negotiations. French President Macron met with his Ukrainian counterpart this month, but no firm plans emerged. It is doubtful that Macron, who is facing domestic chaos, has the political capital to create any commitment to Zelensky. Poland's Donald Tusk, despite his country's enthusiastic support for Ukraine and vast defense budget, was quick to pour cold water on any imminent deployment of peacekeeping forces as recently as December. Europe's other leaders lag even further behind, most notably Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Time is nearly up. The sentiment of German voters is shifting on Ukraine, with Scholz coming under fire for the most recent $3 billion package. UK Prime Minister Starmer, embattled domestically and staring down a defense budget crisis, has issued only the vaguest of promises about taking any full part in any peacekeeping action. So I won't read the whole thing to you, but it's obvious what's going on here. Zelensky wasn't at the inauguration. He has no more clout. He has no more big chips in the game. Let's put it that way, because Trump has made it clear, we're done. We're out of that. You guys are going to have to come to a peace deal because we're pulling out. So, yeah, there we are. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing this up because if I know it, everyone else knows it. They're so corrupt, okay? So why is he having troop problems? Probably because deserters. And then in comes, I wrote down the pronunciations here, so give me a second. So then this drops yesterday, right before he spoke. Here we go. So one of the guys in charge of his defense wellness or something like that. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, a guy named Ole Drus was detained by the SBU, which is the Služba Bezpečnosti Ukrainy. That's like it used to be part of the KGB. And that is like their internal security, meaning those are the people that follow you around and lock you up. All right, let me share this tab. Okay, so this dropped just the other day. And the timing by the Times was obvious. They dropped it on the same day that Zelensky gave his speech at Davos. Ukrainian army psychiatrist held on $1 million corruption charge. Ole Drus may be suspected of taking bribes from draft dodgers to declare them unfit for service. So with these things dropping, you're going to see more articles like this. Who would ever? I mean, I don't know why we did to begin with, but this guy was taking bribes, according to this article. So why would we put our troops on the ground when he can't even keep his troops on the ground? And by the way, there's no strategic interest for the United States. I don't care what anyone says. There is no strategic interest. Russia's not going to roll through Europe and wipe out democracy, okay? Because according to Zelensky and the EU, he can't even roll through Ukraine. So how the hell is he going to roll through Europe? And according to this Ukrainian journalist, this is the worst part. Drus had already been charged with accepting bribes in 2017, but was acquitted after what he called a substandard investigation. Okay. So they put the guy in the same position who was taking bribes for the same thing. And then like, oh my God, he got caught taking bribes. Now here's the part that gives me even more pause. I found this article from Politico from 2019. So the people that detained Druze, the SBU, Zelensky doesn't trust them. So check this out. This Politico, 2019, July 25th. The corrupt spy agency tests Ukraine's new president. And yes, I know what you're all thinking. It's Politico. It's yes, I know. I don't trust any of them, but an article's an article. But no, I don't. Obviously, if I was doing an investigation, I'd have multiple sources confirming this. But for the purposes of just talking about this, I'm just using the Politico piece because I guess what's good about this as a source is it's in Politico's interest to help Zelensky back then. So, and obviously this article is angled towards vilifying early on because it was 2019 the Russians, because obviously, in my opinion, based on the stuff I've collected, and DCF Press has collected a lot, they knew we were going to they knew we were going to be dumping money into Ukraine. They knew that long before we started in February of 2022. They just had to shut down Afghanistan first. Can't have two ATMs open at the same time. Okay. Politico, a corrupt spy agency, tests Ukraine's new president. The security service has never been reformed, but Zelensky has the chance to do so. So you see, they're already doing PR for this guy. Not a great picture. Not a great picture. Like most good actors, Volodymyr Zelensky relishes a challenging role. I mean, Politico, Matthew Karnas, the guy who wrote this, put on your pom-poms and your cheerleading outfit. This is disgusting. He sought Ukraine's presidency despite a complete lack of political experience and lack of military experience. Then after a stunning landslide win, I'm just waiting for DCF Press to drop his comment on that one. After a stunning landslide win, he called early parliamentary elections, leading to his new political movement to an absolute majority last weekend, with the largest seat count of any party in Ukraine's post-Soviet history. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? I'm sure they did mail-in votings too. So DCF Press says, they're going to do in Zelensky. No, you're right. I mean, read the best and the brightest about the Vietnam War, and look what happened to the South Vietnamese president. Like, I hate to talk smack about my own country, but let's face it, it is what it is. And the problem with Zelensky, and I was talking about this morning, is he has no diplomacy skills. He can't go there in his little Walmart sweatshirt barking at world leaders who've already given him a ton of stuff. And now, without having his overhead cover, he can't, he's got no clout at all. Before he had clout because he had the backing of the Democratic-held Congress and Biden. He doesn't have that anymore. He has nothing. He's like, he's like that mafia captain, whose boss dies, and then he's kind of exposed. Like some other captain's going to take him out because now the other boss is in charge. Kind of like in Get Shorty, John Travolta's boss died, and now new guy takes over. So, Zelensky's got nothing, but he's sitting there barking at EU leaders, lecturing them, blah blah blah. And this is not going to be taking away from pensions or medical. Of course not, because we pay for those too. But he's sitting there telling them how much of their GDP to spend and all this. Moron. All right. So yeah, you're right, DCF Press. I'm not condoning that. I'm not calling for that. I am saying, and I know you'll say the same thing, that's how it goes. I mean, that is literally how it goes. There's a lot of suicides. There's a lot of plane crashes. Okay, so it's a Trump-Putin conversation. Zelensky needs a helicopter ride. Yeah, no, you're right. And if you noticed in the latest Davos one, Trump never mentions Zelensky, ever. He never mentions him. He just says Putin. And as he should. We're the most powerful nation in the world. We're going to be even more powerful than ever. as long as we all do our best to keep it strong. It can't be just Trump. But that's beneath him. Okay, that's beneath Trump. Okay, this guy, this guy owes us money. Okay, this guy is a customer. Okay, he doesn't get to sit at the big boy table or the adults table. So yeah, I'm glad that Trump, the way he knows how to work the message and the imaging, it's really amazing. He's a real master of it. So, yep, you're right. DCF Press says, boom. I wish I knew how to stream this automatically. Okay, so now with the levers of power firmly in his grasp, Ukrainian actor turned president faces a challenge many here consider a mission impossible. How clever. Reforming the country's chronically corrupt domestic spy service. Domestic spy service, sorry, there it goes. That ad popped up. Known by its acronym SBU, the Služba Bezpečí Ukrainy, Ukraine's secret service is the successor of organization of the Soviet-era KGB, from which it inherited its original staff, structure, and modus operandi. Over the years, its spies have been implicated in a long series of corruption scandals, large and small, involving crimes ranging from murder to illegal arms sales. Illegal arms sales. Don't forget that Financial Times article that said about half the weapons going to Ukraine are ending up on the black market in Europe. I wonder why. It just goes on to talk about the corruption, and of course, Matthew, whatever his face is here, Matthew, I can't pronounce his last name, Karnitsching. He just goes on to, continue with this fluffing activity and, blah, blah, blah. I'll put that in the description so you can see it. So point being is this. Okay, this guy, he's never had control of his own country. He's a puppet. He's a puppet that Victoria Nunes and that whole 2014 crowd installed, during that color revolution. Okay? He's a puppet. He was there to do one thing. Get the money in, put on a good show, put on your little sweatshirt so you could always look like you're coming right off the front lines, and make sure the money keeps flowing. And that he did his job well. Every time the money would slow down, what would Zelensky do? He'd blow up some things and blame Russia. And then the Democrats and the rhinos would be like, oh, we got to send more money. Russia's going to roll through democracy. It's like, give me a break. Anyways, so keep an eye on that one. That's really, it's some good history here. Make sure you add it to your file or however you're keeping it. So yeah, there's that. All right, so next topic before I go too far. Remove that. Okay, actually, let me mention, so I've been going all day. I'm a little tired. Okay, my throat gets sore. I woke up really, really tired this morning because I was trying to pull some clips of this Harry Sisson, this weird left-wing influencer, paid influencer, by the way. And I had to get a TikTok account, so I used my spare computer and set up a fake email because I don't trust TikTok at all. And I gotta say, man, I see, I've never gone on TikTok before. I've seen a few videos. But the big controversy about TikTok is not so much the information that goes to China, it's what it does to your brain. And I gotta say, within a minute, it was hard to pull away from that thing. And there was nothing on that was interesting. It was kind of dumb. It was really juvenile, actually. But I found myself just staring at it like a zombie till like 1 in the freaking morning. And I was like, and I've had like a headache all day from this thing. It felt like the entire world was in TikTok. And when I went somewhere else, Rumble, YouTube, like I was outside of the party. It's really strange. I don't know if it's the colors. I know there's been a lot of studies on it. People call it digital fentanyl. But man, I'm so glad both of my kids on their own decided to take it off their phones. My daughter, who's in her 20s, was telling me, she's like, yeah, I got rid of TikTok because I was wasting my life away. It is really strange. Anyways, I was a little tired going on that all night long. And so I woke up this morning and, look, when you're tired, you're dehydrated, you just don't feel great. So what we have as one of our sponsors is Native Path. Okay, let me pop them up here. Okay. So Native Path, which I'm literally drinking right now, this stuff keeps me going all day long. Let me show you what it is. There we go. All right. So you go to, well, right now we're running something through something called nativehydrate.com. Okay. And what is that? So I can't reach the jar, but you can see it behind him. So this is the hydrate. Well, this is an old whiskey bottle because I like glass. But what this is here is these are the collagen, and then you'll see the Native Hydrate. There we go. So this Native Hydrate line is amazing. Okay. And I just always keep one of these with me. It has all your amino acids, and it's just keeps you going. It's like what Gatorade wishes it was. And it's all natural too. And so check this out. Go to nativehydrate.com/daily clout. And, you know, if you do have, I like the way it tastes better in glass, but in a lot of cases, if you order a certain amount, sorry, that's the cork, they will send you like a metal shaker and a little like blender thing that, you know, if you're Greek, you know, with the frappes, you know. But this stuff, honestly, like I wake up in the morning, I drink it. I go to sleep at night, I drink it. It's great. Sorry. And then another product I have that I really like is the collagen. So the collagen peptides, bones, hair, you name it. I started taking the collagen peptides, and those aches and pains that come after you're like 45, no matter how good of shape you're in, all of a sudden, you know, I had aches and pains, and my son's like, "Dad, you're losing your hair." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't want to lose my hair." But the collagen is great. And they sent me one of these little kits here, the collagen PM. Man, I sleep like a baby. It's fantastic. So that I love Native Path. They're great. I played their video this morning for the first time on the show. It's really good. Let me throw that up for you. There it is. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so I got that scrolling on the bottom. Let me pop it right up though, so you can see the thing. There we go. Okay. All right, so there is our Native Path, and you're going to go also to, for this, you're going to go to Native Hydrate for the hydrate products for the special running this month. Go to nativehydrate.com/daily clout, or use the promo code daily clout at either nativepath.com or nativehydrate.com. You'll get that 10% discount, and you help us, help keep the show rolling and keeping it free. But I do, as you could see, one thing I always tell people, I don't promote any product. I don't care unless I use it, unless I like it. And I have the freedom to do that because this is my show, and I don't get paid for my show. So if I want a product on here, then I will put it on. If not, I don't. And so there's our sponsor, sorry. Okay, so that was one story we talked about Zelensky, and then another story that came through was, oh yeah, all right, so everyone's making a big fuss about the pardons, okay? So there's this amazing thread. We're just doing news tonight, not doing a lot of investigation. I kind of overdid it this morning with a 4.5-hour live stream, but I'll do it again if you guys liked it. But let me show you. This is a great thread. This came out yesterday, I believe. Okay, so let me show you here. All right, so this thread was by this guy here, Relevant Mina, hat tip to him, on X. So he says, since you mention it, and talk about the pardons, because he's seen the legacy media, they're like, hey, we pardon all those J6 people, he's terrible. Of course, they're not mentioning, the child killers, the rapists, and all the people that Biden pardoned, and I hate getting into whataboutery, but I think in this case you kind of have to, because we have to keep reminding people who still might be convinced that like that administration was anything less than evil. And so he did something really cool. This Relevant Mina, definitely he's a good follow, or she. Since you mentioned it. In 1954, and I didn't know any of this stuff, members of the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party shot 5 congressmen during an immigration debate on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. Had no idea about that. Jimmy Carter commuted their lifetime prison sentences in 1979. And then I think he was responding to him to understand the right. They believe that the reason that the dividing line between J6 can prosecute, say, Portland rioters is because the norms are set by the liberals and to protect. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, but okay. So, and then these are the people that were commuted for blowing up members of Congress. I had no idea about this story. I'll put this thread in the link for you too. These convictions prompted a Puerto Rican nationalist bombing campaign. Wow. Bill Clinton pardoned most of the perpetrators in 1999, but was rejected by Oscar Lopez Rivera. Rivera received a second pardon from Barack Obama and a personal performance of Hamilton in his honor. So who's Oscar Lopez Rivera? Well, he was, imprisoned, Puerto Rican, and has been in prison since 1981. He was due to serve 70 years. He will be released May 17th, and that was back in 2017. Rivera was born in Puerto Rico and lived in Chicago after serving in the Vietnam War, where he earned a Bronze Star, but became disillusioned by the American military. He became a member of the Fuerzas Armadas de Liberación Nacional. I don't speak Spanish. A group responsible for dozens of bombings and several deaths. He was captured by the FBI and convicted of, there's that phrase, seditious conspiracy. And by the way, only 4 people from J6 got convicted of seditious conspiracy, and I think it's because they took pleas. So a lot of these left-wing trolls will be like, oh, everyone got charged with sedition. No, it's like 4 people. And they probably wouldn't have had to take those pleas if they just held out. I'm not judging. I'm just saying it's not like a court found them, guilty. They were charged and they accepted pleas. Okay, and so blah, blah, blah. He's crying with friends. So in 1971, here's another one. In 1971, the Weather Underground detonated a bomb in a bathroom below the U.S. Senate to protest American military operations in Laos. Nobody was ever arrested for this act. Bill Ayers, one of the ringleaders, went on to become a close friend and mentor of Barack Obama. Go figure. Okay. Now remember, the leader of the Proud Boys literally, and this was genius about this thread, literally was charged the same way. Okay. Literally was charged the same way. Wasn't there, but was considered one of the ringleaders. I don't regret setting bombs, Bill Ayers said when interviewed by the New York Times on the occasion of the release of a book he'd written. Asked by the interviewer Danita Smith if he would do it over again, he blamed the violence of the Vietnam War. Well, how convenient. Okay. Ara's wife, Bernadine Dorn, another Weather Underground leader, both became university professors. Maybe someone could put in the chat why they're called Weather Underground. I forgot that name, but well, God, if it's climate change, people, I'm going to vomit. Okay, so both became university professors. Ayers got a taxpayer-funded position at the University of Illinois. You guys kind of seeing the generational pattern here? Like, it's just this constant Marxist march that it's like a Marxist factory, and this country has become, and we really got to cleanse it. These both people are professors in Chicago, like, come on. Mention of Ayers' ties to Obama during the 2008 presidential campaign were denounced as, say it with me, racist, of course. Okay. Obama palling around with terrorists. And I remember when she called that out, she was right to call that out. They are terrorists. And she was called a racist for that. I do remember that. Ayers and Dorn also raised former San Francisco TA Chesa Bowden, son of weatherman David Gilbert and Kathy Bowden, who had been convicted of murdering 3 people during a robbery. I'm sorry, who are the violent ones? I mean, come on. Like, this thread was like the best one I've read in a long time. Andrew Cuomo commuted Gilbert's sentence in 2021. Bowden became a professor at Columbia. where they produce a ton of lawyers and journalists. Man convicted in 81 Brinks robbery wins release from New York prison. David Gilbert, whose 75-year prison sentence was commuted in one of Andrew Cuomo's last acts as governor, was granted parole. Unbelievable. Okay, in 1983, other Weathermen affiliates, I guess Weathermen are like these Weather Underground people. I don't think they're meteorologists. So other Weathermen affiliates involved in the Bowdoin killings again bombed the U.S. Again bombed the U.S. Senate. Okay, so recidivism rate for liberals through the roof, Marxists, and doesn't seem to matter, as well as several other government buildings in protest of American military actions in Lebanon and Grenada. Bill Clinton pardoned the perpetrators in his last day of office. One of the perpetrators, Susan Rosenberg, went on to become a professional activist. She joined the board of Black Lives Matter charity and obtained a taxpayer-funded position at City University in New York. Okay, and there's a headline, former terrorists among those pardoned or freed in Clinton's final act in office. Convicted terrorist sits on the board of charity handling Black Lives Matter fundraising. Okay. The Susan Rosenberg case provides one example. Rosenberg, a former member of the Weather Underground, served 16 years for explosives possession. She was also a suspect in the Brinks robbery. Okay, you know the rest of it. All right, on January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump pardoned a number of people charged with crimes related to January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. This act was widely described as unprecedented. None of the individuals pardoned have yet received a taxpayer-funded professorship. So there you go. What do we call that? Well, we'll call that section perspective. Okay, I'll put that in the description when we get there. All right, so I wanted to cover that. These are a lot of headlines I couldn't get through today. Okay, we're gonna do one more. And this was, I found this very upsetting. All right, not upsetting, but this guy. So this guy, Michael Fanone, he's one of the Capitol Police. Like, you know what? First of all, no police officers died on January 6th. None. Okay. Brian Sesnick, I think was his name, died of a brain aneurysm. And you may have recalled that the legacy media said he died because someone beat him with a hydrant. One of the protesters on J6 beat him with a hydrant. Turned out to be completely false. He's seen on camera after he was supposedly killed in those released tapes. So this happened, I guess, yesterday. Now, it is kind of funny to see the CNN lady's reaction, but so this is what ended up happening is so Stuart Rhodes, who is he again? Yeah, he's the founder of the anti-government group. Well, they call it's Yahoo News via CNN or CNN via Yahoo. So these are not my words; it's theirs. The founder of the anti-government group Oath Keepers so he basically, this guy Fanone does this. And look, man, it's like, I'm sorry. I think he just kind of showed his colors with this. So let me back this up and let me get this on the screen for you. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So again, the headline here, make sure it's up. Okay, here we go.
No, I don't, because we did the right thing. We were there to protect Trump supporters from Antifa. We were there to protect and secure 2 permitted events on Capitol grounds where members of Congress were going to speak. The guys that went inside did not commit any crimes. In fact, they helped the police and helped the people out.
He says he has no regrets. What do you say, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I would say to Stuart Rhodes. Go f yourself.
Okay.
You're a liar.
We didn't obviously get to beep that word out, but obviously this is personal.
So yeah, there was that. And then the next thing I watched on this was, I don't know, Here's the thing. Well, let me let you watch this next video quick. I want your thoughts on it before I tell you my thoughts on it, War. But when I watch this video, if I have that, there it is. Okay. So again, he's one of the Capitol Police. Now, keep in mind, this guy has like written a book. He's got a nonprofit. You know, he's trying to make it sound like, oh, I was just doing my job and protecting people and all this. But that's, you know, according to the law of J6 is totally not true. Okay. And a lot of the footage I've seen totally supports what they're saying, not what this guy's saying. But not only that is he's not, in my opinion, acting the way victims act. Okay, he's acting like an aggressor. That's just my opinion. I was trained to read body language. I used to teach class. I've got a vignette in Janine Driver's book, You Can't Lie to Me. I know a little bit about this stuff. I'm no Joe Navarro. I'm no expert, but I know enough about it to know that if you're a victim, okay, and anyone who's a victim or a survivor will know this, you don't make a career out of your victimhood typically, okay? But everything about this guy has been political. Okay, I'll show you in a minute. For instance, here is the nonprofit he belongs to. Countdown to January 6th. What's that mean? Well, let me read it. On January 6, 2021, Americans across the country watched in horror as a violent mob attacked our nation's capital, the bedrock of American democracy. Congress has a responsibility to stand up for our democracy and safeguard the integrity of our election system. They also have kind of have to protect the Capitol too, but never mind that. Instead, MAGA extremists have chosen to undermine our democracy at every juncture. Now, by undermine, listen to what they say here. Instead of building faith in our democracy, they spread the big lie and voted against certifying the 2020 election results. Instead of explicitly condemning the insurrection, by the way, FBI did a full investigation. It's not an insurrection. We all knew that. It'd be the first rifleless, gunless insurrection ever. They have minimized or even condoned the political violence on January 6th. And instead of protecting each of, and by the way, this is courageforamerica.org if you want to check it out. Just make sure you don't have a weak stomach because you might want to vomit. And instead of protecting each and every American's ability to vote and have their vote counted, they are pushing legislation that would make it harder for people to vote and make our elections less safe. I don't even know what they're talking about. What are they pushing? Having people show an ID to vote? What are they talking about? And this is like present time, right? This is like January 6, 2025. They're now talking about the countdown to 2025. Obviously, we're past that, with the possibility that the U.S. House of Representatives could have a role in determining the 2024 presidential election if no single candidate receives a majority of higher than 270 votes. The stakes for our democracy have never been higher. The clock is ticking until January 6th, when Congress will be tasked with certifying the 2024 election results. Before it's too late, join us in calling on our... So, this whole push is to kind of... if you read the whole thing, it's like, we're going to do a phone campaign to make sure our leaders don't certify it. Well, Donald Trump won. Plain and simple. There's no question. There's no question. But they go on, they say, you can make a difference by calling on Congress to oppose the big lie bill, a piece of legislation that would make it harder for people to vote. If by harder for people to vote, he means you actually have to be a U.S. citizen and show an ID, yeah, I guess it makes it harder for those people to vote. But as we've seen down in Georgia, that's all BS. Make your own decision. That's my opinion. Okay, and it's called Courage for America, which I guess implies we don't have courage and we need these clowns to give it to us. So here they are here. Okay, so yep, there he is. What is it? I'm not even gonna play that video. You can play it on your own. Okay. Now what he's I'd love to actually look at all these people and find out which ones are crisis actors. But yeah, it's so dramatic. And Courage for America is a council of proud Americans speaking out against an extremist agenda that puts money and power over our rights and freedom. I want you guys to understand that this website kind of showed up during the last election. Okay. Instead of working for us to create good paying jobs at home, lower prices at the pump and grocery store, and invest in quality education for our children, the new extremist House majority. I mean, come on. Like, do I need to read anymore? You've heard this all before. You could hear the same thing on Morning Joe if you'd like. It's just, this guy is just parroting talking points. Here's the People's Council, which sounds very communist, actually. The People's House must represent and serve the people, not corporations and special interests. Okay, yes, because I mean, come on, the last house didn't do that. That's why we, the people, are pushing back. I don't know, pushing back sounds pretty aggressive. Does he mean pushing for an insurrection? Courage for America, advised by the People First Council of proud Americans, there's that word again, including veterans, educators, and by the way, I'm a disabled veteran. I hate when people just throw the veteran thing out there. Like, you can't say anything because it's a veteran. Oh, trust us, we got a veteran. Come on. I served 11 years active duty. I'm broken up. I've been in combat many times. I hate when people do that. I hate it. Is a campaign designed to counteract, delegitimize, and shift the narrative around MAGA extremists, sham investigations, anti-democratic antics, fake scandals, and more. Together, we will hold them accountable so we can get back to the issues our communities care about. We demand the House of Representatives work for us, not play politics with our country. Okay, this to me sounds more like the Red Guard in Mao's China than it does a democratic.org. Okay, so here's my counsel. Okay, I'm sure everyone knows about this guy. Okay, he's the guy that said, oh, I was doing this, and you can see on video, like, not doing anything, kind of hiding from the violence, apparently. I don't know these other people, so I won't comment on them. Oh, there he is. There's Captain America himself. Okay, Captain Courage America, damn it. That's him. Okay, so I just want to give you a little background on this. This would be a great one if someone wants to write a good Substack. I'm pretty sure there's enough material in this website alone, but also go, if I were to do this one, I'm not, because I don't have the capacity right now. But if I were to do this one, I'd be going down here. Just so I'll show you. I'd be pulling I'd pull all the indexed versions of this website. I get them all. I always start right here. I go to the contact information, see where that takes me. I always like to go into X and see who the followers, who they're following. And I start with the bottom of the list and just collect everything. Remember, when you're doing an investigation like this, if you don't already know how to, and DCF and some of the other people that know me can attest to this, I turn on the vacuum and I collect everything. Screenshots, you name it. Find out when the website was made. You could go to whois.com. A lot of you know this, but for those that don't, I don't want to assume anything. And then I would also go, you want to find out where the money goes. Okay. You could go to IRS and get the 990. I'm not calling up every website I use simply because I have some open cases on my screen right now, so I can't really do that. But let me see here. Our work, the blog. Oh yeah, join us. Another thing I do often is I have a lot of fake email accounts. I join all these things. I get all these emails, all of them, because it gives me a heads up on like what's going to happen. I even have one for the RevComs, which are the Revolutionary Communists of America. So I get invited to all their webinars and everything. They're cuckoo. But yeah, this is interesting stuff. And by the way, where they ask for a number, you don't have to put in a real number. Okay, just put in the stuff that has a star. Okay, if you want. But it's a great way to get info. And remember, when you're collecting intelligence, don't come up with a theory. Like if you want to like do research on this, for instance, don't start with a theory. Don't say these are bad people and I'm going to prove it. No, just collect everything about it. The theory will present itself based on the facts. That's how you avoid confirmation bias. But a really key one is, sorry, I'm laughing, the big lie resolution. Okay, call to action, sign the petition. It's interesting to see. But yeah, so that's a guy. I'm going too far on that. And it's getting late, so I have to hop off soon. But this is I just want you to watch. I want your thoughts on this. I'll put your comments up and I'll answer some of them, but just watch this here. Let me share that screen. There we go. Okay, this is yesterday. All right. And I just want your thoughts on what you see here. I'll try not to say anything.
Michael, I appreciate you being with us. I'm wondering when you heard the news and what's going through your mind tonight?
I just heard the news from your producers a few moments ago. I mean, the only thing that that's going through my mind right now is that this is what the American people voted for. Donald Trump has been promising these pardons ever since he announced his candidacy in Waco, Texas, the scene of one of the most notorious battles between American law enforcement and the American extremist movement that resulted in the death of numerous law enforcement officers. Thanks, America.
I just have to say this. Was he talking about Waco having law enforcement officers die, or was he talking about, because as I remember Waco, maybe some did die, but that was the FBI. They raided a compound, David Koresh, and it ended up going on fire, and women, children, everyone. I'm not saying they're all innocent, but what I am saying, the children obviously are. But that resulted in a bunch of people getting burnt alive because of, in my opinion, the FBI's malfeasance. So I don't know if he's talking about January 6th where officers died, because we know no officers died on January 6th. Weirdly, like 3 or 4 of them committed suicide within weeks of January 6th. That's strange. But yeah, I don't know if he's talking about Waco there. He clearly should maybe study his history a little bit, before he throws these things out. I'd also say he should probably take that filter off his software there, because his face is so smooth it almost looks like a mask. All right, back to it. I won't be mean. I shouldn't be mean. All right, here we go. Oh, and then what I also I said I wouldn't give you my opinion. I'm gonna wait for your opinion. Sorry.
This feels like a betrayal to you.
Oh, I have been betrayed by my country. Rest assured, I have been betrayed by my country, and I've been betrayed by those that supported Donald Trump. Whether you voted for him because he promised these pardons or for some other reason, you knew that this was coming, and here we are. Tonight, 6 individuals who assaulted me as I did my job on January 6th, as did hundreds of other law enforcement officers, will now walk free. 6 individuals who have threatened my life and who have made threats towards my family members, as well as countless other January 6th defendants who have threatened me because they see me as a spokesperson for law enforcement for this event. My family, my children, and myself are less safe today because of Donald Trump and his supporters.
When you hear the president of the United States, Donald Trump, talking about back the blue, or his supporters saying that they back the blue, you don't buy that?
No political party supports law enforcement. That's just a fact. Political parties support public safety, but they don't support police officers, and they don't understand the sacrifices that we make on behalf of the American people. That's been my experience as a 20-year career law enforcement officer in a major metropolitan city in this country. That being said, right now, I think that the Republican Party owns a monopoly on hypocrisy when it comes to supporting, or their supposed support of, law enforcement. Because tonight, the leader of the Republican Party pardoned hundreds of violent cop assaulters.
You were pardoned today, and we should know President Biden said it was not for committing a crime, it was for stepping forward to testify about January 6th. Did you know about that in advance? What do you think about that? And are you concerned for the safety of your family now?
I had no communication with the White House or anyone else, for that matter, regarding a potential pardon or presidential pardon. I mean, all I can say is that I think it's a sad commentary on where we are as a nation that a sitting president thought it necessary to issue a preemptive pardon to a witness in a congressional investigation because the subject of that investigation is now the president and had promised to pursue politically motivated revenge. Again, it's just more examples of the outrageous behavior of the current president of the United States. As far as concern for my family and my family's safety, I've been concerned for myself and my family's safety ever since I testified before Congress. If you remember, I didn't even make it through my congressional testimony before I received my first threat from a member of the American public who called me and threatened my life literally as I was giving testimony. And those threats have continued to this day against both myself and members of my family. In recent months, my mother has been swatted, a 76-year-old woman who's guilty of nothing other than having a son, a police officer who responded to the Capitol on January 6th. And she's also had human feces thrown on her while she was raking leaves in her front yard. This is who we are as a nation. This is what we have become, and it has been further exacerbated by Donald Trump. As I've said many times before, we are self-centered, we are violent, and we are indifferent to the suffering of our neighbors.
Sorry about that. My phone started ringing right in the middle. I thought it interrupted that. Anyways, so yeah, where were we? Okay, was this the guy who opened the doors to the Capitol? You know, that's a good question. I don't know who opened the doors to the Capitol. I remember that. I don't know who it was. And look, you have your own opinions about the guy. I don't agree with anyone attacking anyone's family, plain and simple. Or I don't agree with anyone attacking anyone. You know, now that I do understand people get frustrated and do things outside the law, I don't condone that even in a corrupt government. I mean, you know, protect your family and all that, you know, first, you know. So let me just be clear on that. I'm not saying to harass this guy or anything like that. I just, the propaganda that's coming out of, let me move that. The propaganda that's coming out of the left it seems now geared towards undermining everything. Okay, undermining everything. And we are never going to get anywhere. Let's face the facts. The majority of the country wanted Donald Trump in both the popular and the electoral vote. There's no contest. The markets are reacting. You know, I'll read at the end of this. You got to see what Politico wrote. Politico, of all people. So anyways, I put up your comments while we were talking. But yeah, I mean, if you know, whoever threw feces at his mom, that's BS. You shouldn't do that. And you shouldn't mess with people's family. You know, you want to go, you know, fight with the guy, go fight with the guy or something like that. But you know, that kind of stuff, it's not right for either side to do that. I'll just put it that way. Okay. It's not right for either side to resort to vigilantism or anything like that. That just creates a cycle that just is worse and worse and worse. And remember, if you do vigilante type acts, you're just creating a world where they feel justified in doing the same to other people. So no matter which side you're on, you know, just, yeah, debate it, change the law, get elected, get in the system so you can maybe change things that way, but don't resort to vigilantism. The only time I'd say resort to vigilantism is in like a situation like Red Dawn, where we got invaded and you're blowing up like the, evil invaders. And then it's really not vigilantism. All right, so there's that one. I did not think that was great. I think that was a bad look for him. He seemed more angry than anything. I don't like being lectured on what kind of country I am because we didn't vote the way you wanted to. And that seems to be the talking point of the left. And a lot of people on the right, let's be honest, a lot of people like the Rhino type people, they did the same thing. Okay. And let's be, I don't want to be fair, but I do want to be fair, but let's not forget history. Don't forget, after 9/11, what happened to anyone that didn't blindly support Bush. Okay. The point being is you have to investigate everything before you do things publicly, before you make a move on anything. Know what you're making a move on. And people were vilified if they disagreed with Bush. Okay. Just like they were vilified if they disagreed with Biden. Okay. And we're seeing it now. Like there are some people on the extreme right that if you don't agree with Trump, you're a bad person. You have the right to not agree with Donald Trump. I personally, like most of the things he's doing, I'm not really feeling great about that AI thing, but by and large, I understand that, he's a transactional guy and I voted for him again. And, I do my research, just like I know you do. So let's not do that. Okay. You're going to meet people that disagree. Okay. We, real MAGA supporters, we love Trump, but I'm also not blind. People are human. Trump's going to do things I'm not going to agree with. Okay. And my next door neighbor in Salem at my other place, he's a hardcore leftist. He still has his Walsh Harris signs up, but the guy's like 80 years old. He's been, a dock worker, union, all that. And that's what he believes. Look, that's fine. Okay. He can still fix the hell out of anything in my house. He's the first guy to shovel my walk before I even can. I don't think he's doing that out of the kindness of his heart. I think he's doing it so then he could tell me that he shoveled my walk and then I feel guilty. But we do take care of each other as neighbors. And that's the key to it. Okay. That's the key. That's the America that we grew up in is, someone has their Harris sign next to me and I had my big Trump sign. Okay. But we still sit down on the porch and we have a cup of coffee and we disagree. Okay. It doesn't mean we hate each other, and we shouldn't hate each other because a divided country is a conquerable country. Don't forget, during the Civil War, during the Civil War, you had the French helping the North and you had the English helping the South. Why were they doing that? Because they believed in one cause or the other? No, they wanted us at war with each other because it makes you easier to conquer. Why do you think all these divisive policies come through, like DEI and things? So many of those I can trace to the Chinese Communist Party directly. Why do they do that? To divide us. Because again, when a country is divided, when a group is divided, when a gang is divided, another gang can beat them. Okay. Unified is always harder to beat than, a divided anything. So keep that in mind. So I don't want to lecture you. I'll say I resist the urge to give into my own feelings on these things. And yeah, look, you've seen my tweets. Sometimes I just throw it out there and I regret it the next day. But that doesn't get you anywhere. Stay focused on investigating everything. If you have a question about something, don't take someone's word for it. Okay. Remember, Twitter, legacy news, even conservative media, those are lead generators to a guy like me and to people like you. That's all they're good for. Okay. They're lead generators. One of my favorite conservative podcasters is Steve Bannon. I've met Steve Bannon. I know Steve Bannon. He knows who I am. My wife's on a show a lot, was on a show a lot during the vaccine papers. But even when he puts stuff out, I still check it. And here's a good example. Okay. Why you need to check things. Okay. I was pretty horrified after Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO, was assassinated. And then on December 9th, a guy named Luigi Mangione was arrested in Pennsylvania and charged, later charged with, accused of, killing Brian Thompson. And what I was really, really pretty disappointed with was a lot of conservative pundits were talking like he did it. Then there were a lot of conservatives like people I know, people I like, people I call friends, calling him a lefty, calling him this. I did it myself. I actually wrote an entire Substack called America, I Apologize. Okay, because I realized what I gave into. Okay, I gave into not investigating everything and just going with letting my emotions take me for a ride. Okay, if you are acting in any capacity out of emotion, you're wrong. Okay, and look, Marxists and communists, our enemies, know this. That's why the news is so inflammatory. Because what do you do when we have emotions? You shop. That makes you feel better. That's one of the big reasons. But you also attack and you cause chaos. It's when you're thinking that you can make it through like a 15-round boxing match. That's why when you're at the weigh-in, you see the boxers at the weigh-in, they're very stoic, the professionals. People talk smack to each other, but they're trying to get them to lose their cool. So, and I know it sounds hypocritical. I just kind of showed some emotion there and some inflammatory stuff, but that doesn't mean you have to believe me. And that's why, I tell you, like, I'm like, don't just believe me. So I was upset with the Brian Thompson thing because this Luigi Mangione, who I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. No one does. Okay, no one does. But what I couldn't stand was there were people that were like, and they're still saying it, Luigi Mangione, the guy that killed Brian Thompson. There has not even been an indictment hearing yet. Based on my investigation, which you should definitely check out. It's a good read. I put a lot of effort into it. I have experience working on defense legal teams, for the accused, because private investigators don't work for the prosecution. But that's as good as accusing the guy. A lot of them didn't, and like I said, a lot of them, they just assumed he was a lefty, Luigi Mangione. They just assumed he was a lefty. Why? Because he was rich, because he went to a nice college. He was, from what I could tell from all 256 of his tweets that I read, and all the social media of his I read, and every video of him I ever watched, because I watched it all, he seemed pretty apolitical to me. And do you know, as a sidebar, I actually went through Luigi Mangione's entire Twitter and every online profile he had. Do you know I actually searched for the words New York City, United Healthcare, Trump, Biden, everything. None of that comes up. Okay, this guy was a technologist. He's apolitical. I'm not saying he's innocent. I don't know. I'm not on the case, But I'm just going to call this up so you can see it here. There we go. All right. So yeah, if you get a chance and you want to see the way I do my work, then certainly I'm going to get going pretty soon so I could get on that space as I promised. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, if you get a chance, you can kind of see how I go through things. Look, there's no magic to it. You just have to look at literally everything. So I go through this case and I wasn't trying to prove this guy innocent. I'm not trying to do anything. What I do first is I collect every single fact or reporting, all the evidence I can find. But when you start accusing people before there's even an indictment hearing, or just assume they did it, I don't care left or right. You're part of the kangaroo court. Okay. And so by that, I mean, you'll see some pundits today saying the guy that killed Brian Thompson, or there was one who's like, well, the reason why people do this, it's like, you're not in his head. I mean, I noticed none of them mentioned that Luigi Mangione's cousin is a Republican delegate, and that Luigi Mangione is deep in the healthcare industry himself. His family is. That's how they made their fortune, is in nursing home services. So what I did is I just took the federal complaint on this one. You can just kind of see how I did it. And really the key thing is collect once you collect, sort, and then make a timeline, and then go through, then take whatever they give you and go through with a fine tooth comb. In this case here, there's a lot of interesting stuff. Like they didn't fingerprint this guy, Luigi Mangione, until like right before his hearing, his arraignment. On the report here, you can see it says, this is defendant will need to be fingerprinted and photographed. What? Huh? Look, come again? So basically, this guy spent 7 hours in custody and he was never fingerprinted or photographed. They actually took him up to a correction center because I guess they did a visual identification from what the NYPD put out as who they thought the suspect was. You kind of see where the defense is going to have a case here. And I will have a defense lawyer on, Janine Yunus. Some of you may know her. She's was part of the freedom movement. Really great person. We're going to have an episode. And I asked her, hey, I just want you to walk me through, as a former defense lawyer, how you would go about defending this guy. Okay, because he is entitled to a defense. He has not been presumed innocent. He's been presumed guilty by the left and the right. The left wanted him to be guilty so he could be a martyr against private healthcare, because a group called peoplesaction.org has been pushing the whole socialized medicine. They're behind a lot of these lookalike contests and everything you see. But without going too far off topic, I just want to point something out to you. Okay. Not that he doesn't look the same, you can't really tell from this. Okay. They both look different, but I did point this out. It's the details. Got to look at the details. And it's like the only similarities between the people featured in the hostile November 24th images, which were released on December 5th, and the Starbucks image. Okay. There, Starbucks. And then that's from the hostel, which was taken on November 24th. Remember, the murder happened on December 4th. The only similarities between these two, based on what they told us and what we can see, seem to be as follows. Both appear to be white males. Both are wearing coats with hoods. Both appear to be wearing neck gaiters or scarves that can be used as masks. That's it. That's it. Okay, backpack. He had a mail carrier bag, the black strap there. Clearly, these are two different coats. Like, I've seen many different images of this. I do know security cameras will change the color of things, but clearly this is not a black coat. This is also a natural fiber. This is clearly like a Gore-Tex type fiber from the sheen that you could see. But there was one, and so I went through that. Also, go through this too. You'll notice all these, and this is, by the way, these are taken from the official federal complaint. Okay, like here they say the looter left the hostel wearing a gray backpack and rode an electric bike downtown to Central Park West. Okay, and they say, as shown below. So they say at 5:35, shooter left the hostel wearing a gray backpack and rode an electric bike to the location near the Midtown Hotel, as shown below. Okay, that's not the hostel. That's like a block and a half away. That's a Frederick Douglass building. Like, that's coming out of that. That's like a block and a half away. This is at the top of Central Park. So I point all that out. I won't go through it. I did this on an episode already, but it's, I think you'll find it interesting and certainly challenge. If I made a mistake, then I made a mistake. I've gone through this a lot. This is just part of it. I have a whole nother half I'm working on. That indictment hearing's been delayed, so I had to move on to the fires, but this is still an active case I'm working on. The thing that drives me nuts is that in this official complaint, the police and the New York, Alvin Bragg's office, they have this guy making it from 104th and Amsterdam to 54th and 6th in 6 minutes. It's impossible. You don't even need, just try to get that far. It's 3.4 miles based on that route. I think as the crow flies, it's about 2 miles. So 6 minutes. See, I laid that all out, but I'm showing you this because I literally got to look at every little detail. every little detail. And it's a good mindful practice, actually. That's what Aura was telling me, because I don't care what people think. I'm looking at the details. Like, I found out that you can only have a bike that goes 25 miles per hour in New York City. Okay. Even if he had that maximum bike, he wouldn't have made it there on time. So again, the point is, he goes through all the details. Plus, everyone's kind of overlooking or not even wanting to talk or just dismissing this part here where the shooter's walking, but obviously the time says 7:29, which is like after the shooting, like half an hour. And when people talk about it, they're like, oh, they probably forgot to reset the cameras. Well, turns out they didn't, because they might testify that they did, but I park in these garages, okay? I know I actually have this app on my phone, and so I like to talk to people, and I've went and I parked in this garage. No, they're all on the same network. They reset automatically. So that 7:29, that photo there, which is literally right in front, like the murder happened over here. This was actually taken 45 minutes after the murder. Okay, hopefully that comes up in court. And again, it's not because I'm trying to free Luigi. I just want a fair trial. Okay, it goes on and on. But yeah, check this out and feel free to add to it too. If you catch something that I didn't catch, then by all means, please. This will continue. There's a lot to still go through that. I've found many other things. I'm pretty sure that they can't put Luigi Mangione even in New York City in December. Okay. One final thing. Sorry, I'm on a tangent, but I have to say it. One final thing I'll say about this is that, the part where they say he took a taxi? Remember in the beginning, he didn't take a taxi? All right. They had him on a bike going all the way out of town, the shooter. And then on the next day, supposedly a hostel worker saw this photo, either this one or this one, that one, not that one. Yeah, so these are the only photos here that the police released on the 4th. This is it. Okay, see? Okay, that's it. Supposedly, a hostel worker saw this photo and said, hey, I think that guy checked in here 10 days ago while I was working on the night shift. Yeah, it must be him. It looks just like him. That looks like literally every delivery guy in New York. Okay, I have a place, we have a place in Brooklyn. I'm in New York all the time. I could hold up my phone and show you, like, literally like every fourth person has a hoodie, a mask. They all look like that. So, yeah. So that's it. I'm belaboring this, I know. So I will stop now. But oh yeah, what I was going to say is there's also the thing where they say he went up to the George Washington bus terminal and the police lost sight of him at the terminal. Bullshit. No way. No way. That George Washington Bridge bus terminal in it's Upper Manhattan, right near the George Washington Bridge. That thing has its own like police force in it. Like there's so many cameras in there, and that's because of 9/11. There's so many cops there. They lost sight of him. And not only that, they have this manhunt that's happening right away. Okay. Stop all the buses. They have radios. Pull them over. Stop them all. Why didn't that happen? Why? Okay, so again, we'll see how this one plays out. Again, the indictment hearing has been delayed. We'll see how this goes. I did have a case like this in Virginia where the accused was, police were certain, we got mountains of evidence. One of the almost victims accused him and saw him at the scene. Of course, their key witness was the police's key witness in that case that we won, was the last guy seen with the victim, but they never swabbed her for DNA. And she was also the estranged wife of the guy she accused. Okay. And they never swabbed her for DNA. She lied to the grand jury about having a knife on her the night this guy got stabbed in the heart. He ended up getting out. Okay. And that is, Pam Calloway was her, and then it was Clarence Terry. So if you look up a case in Alexandria, Virginia, Clarence Terry, Pam Calloway, you'll see what I mean. They never even looked for a murder weapon. She was there, dead guy next to her, and she said, "Oh, my ex-husband did it. Go get him." And that's what they did. They never even unlocked the dumpsters right near the 7-Eleven. I did. I got hired by the defense lawyer. This guy got lucky. He got like the best defense lawyer in Virginia, not because he had money, because Michael Hadid, who did the case down there in Virginia, happened to be in the courtroom getting ready to retire. And the judge said, "Hey, Michael, you take this case," because the judge can appoint any lawyer he wants. And that's what happened because the public defender was overloaded. So, and that's one of many. I've had one for an army guy that was accused of shooting Iraqi children. Those Iraqi children turned out to be 25-year-old Al-Qaeda members with bomb vests. I happen to have some colleagues that were still in Iraq when that case came up. So, the devil's always in the details. And, that's why we investigate everything. Not to keep plugging that hashtag, but it's true. I mean, it's the best title I could give this thing. All right, guys, I'm going to get going for that space. I really appreciate you all joining me. Let me just tell you really quickly. Again, I mentioned it earlier. I showed you the episode. They are one of our sponsors, is Birch Gold. Please go to Birch Gold and text Daily Clout to 989898 and check out that episode on Rumble. You'll find it, or you could go to dailyclout.io. Look up the episode. It's sponsored. So it says we have to say sponsored because they are a sponsor. But Philip Patrick and we had a really interesting discussion about Ghana and their gold. Okay, and you remember Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, where'd she go? She went to Ghana. Interesting conversation. It's always interesting with Philip Patrick. And I really like these guys because I've moved most of my IRAs into here because I realized Janus and Fidelity and all these that I had from rollovers. Oh my God, they had all my stuff in like crypto this and stuff I didn't even like, and BlackRock. I was like, nah, can't do it. Gold, just so you know, has gone up in November. It was November 2023, it was about 1,700 an ounce. By November 2024, it was at 2,700 an ounce, and they're predicting it will go up through 3,000. It's just a great hedge. I sleep better at night knowing that my money is protected. And what I like about these guys too, you learn something. You could actually talk to these guys for like hours on the phone. They will talk to you, but they won't spam you. So text, they would never spam me, and they could. I'd welcome it. But you will learn a lot. You're going to get a free info kit on gold. It costs nothing. It's full of information. I also signed up for their newsletter. There's a lot of great headlines there. Like understanding not only markets, but understanding precious metals is very important right now. Why? Brazil, Pakistan, India, and China are hoarding gold. Brazil just came up with the technology with China's help where they can identify gold as being Brazilian gold, and they're going to try to come and take it. So obviously, if our enemies are hoarding gold, they know something we don't know. So keep that in mind. Oh, and that was interesting in the Ghana thing. We were talking in the Ghana interview. As it turns out, Ghana, who's the largest producer of gold in Africa, is making oil deals with OPEC, and they're refusing to pay in US dollars. They will only pay in gold. We may see a return to a global gold standard. You're gonna wish you got in at 2,700. It's on you. It's I'm good. But I'd hate to see you miss the boat, because what I don't want to see is someone come up to me and say, "Man, I wish I'd listened to you." They're also rated as one of the highest gold companies out there. Check it out for yourself. Investigate it, like I always say. But yeah, you'll really, I don't think you'll be sorry that you did. So go and text Daily Clout 2. I should put up the banner, 989898, and you're going to get your free info kit. And definitely please go and watch my interviews, all the interviews on dailyclout.io with Philip Patrick. They're really good. He's a really smart guy. He actually, it's impressive. He interviewed with my wife, Naomi Wolf, during the fires, which were all around him. That's, even she was like, to get out of there, so it's pretty interesting. Really, really good people. I really like them. All right. So that is one of our sponsors, and just want to make sure I talk to them all. So I talked about native hydrate. Oh yeah. Someone asked me earlier, by the way, I wasn't able to get our other sponsors doctors today because they were it was just too short of notice. I did promise, and I will try again to that earlier viewer. But one of our sponsors is the Wellness Company. Okay, you just go to Daily Cloud Health. They changed the URL recently. Yeah, there it is. Okay, go to that URL right there, dailycloudhealth.com. Use code dailycloud, get 10% off. I freaking love this blue kit. I love this thing. It's full of like pre-prescribed medications that you need, amoxicillin, things for infections. I love it. I love having this. This saves me so much hassle. Saves me so much hassle. You know, family member got an infection and we're calling like, you know, the online doctor, calling the VA even, and all this, like, it was like socialized medicine trying to get just a prescription for a simple infection. And then I thought about it. I was like, you know, we have one of those kits. So I went out to my backpack and I got it. And it's just this array of, you know, pre-prescribed stuff, you know, and I'm like, fantastic, you know, and we had exactly what we needed, which was amoxicillin. So that was great. Tick bites as well. We get doxycycline. It's full of that. We've got like, it's great. This is definitely a must-have. And they're really good first aid kits. If you've been in my line of work, especially doing like when I do executive protection, I do that from time to time for my friend Gary's business. He runs not a big firm, but he has a really great client list and a contractor force. So he'll call me when he needs me. But one thing he's an expert at is like, you know, what you need in a kit, like what we carry when we're protecting someone. We need just the stuff we need. There's a lot of junk in first aid kits and other kits. We love these things, and he's bought some of these too, because, you know, if one of his principals gets shot or worse or poisoned, he needs to have the thing that will work right on hand. So he's now a believer. So, but again, go to TWC. Go to dailycloudhealth.com. Use code dailycloud, get 10% off. And they're a wonderful company. You might recognize actually some of the doctors. Yeah, the team. You might recognize some of these faces. Peter McCullough, Drew Pinsky, Harvey Risch. Harvey Risch is one of my friends. I really love it. Harvey's awesome. He's the smartest guy I've ever met. James Thorpe, another friend. So it's a really good team. That's my buddy right there. And then there's the management team there. So they're really, really responsive. I'm very impressed with the way they handle their business. So check them out. Tell me what you think, and use Daily Cloud as the promo code. Okay. And I have one more. Yes. How could I forget? Thank God for these guys. Okay. Biooptimizers right here. I don't leave home without biooptimizers. Most Americans do not get enough magnesium, which causes all sorts of problems, tons of problems, especially sleep. And magnesium breakthrough is what I use for sleep. I have major sleep issues. I have a CPAP machine. I have things that developed when I was in the military that, you know, I'm still being worked on. Man, these magnesium breakthrough, this formula is great. It's awesome. You want to go to, I need to get that up, but it's, you can't go wrong. They have all sorts of other products too on the site that are amazing. And I mean, what can I say? A good night of sleep, I can't function without it. And if you have problems like I have, it's really bad. So to say something like this actually works, you know, and it's not a placebo effect. I actually monitor my sleep, and I get better sleep when I have magnesium, and not just any magnesium. There's not all magnesiums are built the same. So check them out. Here we go. Let me put that up for you. Okay. But the Magnesium Breakthrough is an amazing product. I can't say enough about it. There we go. Just want to pop that up so you can read it. There we go. And you're going to want to go to biooptimizers.com/dailycloud, get 10% off. And I mean, this is the magnesium is a big deal. And Aura, my guest on the other night, was telling me about how her mother-in-law was like seriously ill and couldn't sleep, and that they actually were giving her this, and this is before we even started promoting Bioptimizers to help her get rest. Yeah, get it, Magnesium Breakthrough, and then tell me your comments on it. But again, bioptimizers.com/daily clout. And don't forget, if you find these investigations useful and you want to help me out, that's always great, because the more help I get, the less I have to work on. I try to take as few clients as possible, even though it's not like going to pay the bills forever, but I do try to get as few clients as possible, because I really like doing this work, because I think it's important that I can share with you the stuff I do. So if you get a chance, you want to go to Give, Send, Go, if you want to help me out, or just send a prayer, whatever you want to do. I just set this up the other day, but it's givesendgo.com/investigate everything. And if you don't, that's okay. You know, I'll make it happen one way or another. I'm going to keep investigating these things, so it doesn't matter. But it does help. So, and I really do appreciate it. Nice to have, though. Like I said, I'm going to keep doing this nonstop, no matter what. So, but I do appreciate it. So if you can give, and if you can't, give me a thumbs up. That's cool too. All right. Finally, oh yeah, I do have one more. Oh, there is one more. I'll put them on the thing because it's my personal sponsor, is heavensharvest.com. If you are in the market for food, shelf-stable food, there's a lot of them out there. Heavensharvest.com is what I have. Talked a lot about. It's delicious. Now is the time to not let your guard down. Like we said this morning, me and JJ Carroll, we were talking about it. It's like, think of Trump winning and all the things that are happening. Think of it like they just parachuted in some reinforcements to our besieged fortress. All right. We only have so much time to strengthen the inside of that fortress, meaning ourselves, our kids, our education, our go-to plans, all that. So now's not the time to relax. Okay. We have some room to get things reinforced. So make sure you're getting your health in line, like we are. Well, you don't have to, it's up to you, but I'm making sure I get my health in line. Naomi and I both, we have enough food to get through a lot of stuff. Plus we get a lot of snow, so it's good to have it. We also have like 2 35-gallon pump gasoline tanks. We have everything because, again, like I said, it's almost like, it's like those zombie movies, right? Where you finally flush out the zombies and you push them out, but they're still banging on the walls. Okay. And Trump is more like, okay, a really good fighter has come in and he's kind of helping manage things and, to mount a defense and push back with a good offensive. But again, there's still some zombies in the nooks and crannies inside the fortress, and there's a bunch of them outside that want to get out and do you no good. So make sure while you're there, you're strengthening, you're sharpening your weapons, you're sharpening your mind, you're ready to fight, because it's not over. We won a battle. We did not win the war, and this war will probably go on in perpetuity as long as there's humans on Earth. So you might as well go out, or be ready for anything. So we have some room right now. So get prepared, be prepared. And with these investigations, let's try to dismantle as many of the corrupt systems, people, and entities as we can. That's the whole reason we're here. I'm going to go join Kimmy MAGA on her space. I appreciate y'all coming out. And Blue Wolf, I just want to give him a special shout out. He's always here. And Barry as well. Lots of you, AK USA. Thank you for coming. Awesome. Nameless Patriot. I think I've seen you here before. Yes, I have. And of course, Cousin Ernie, my actual cousin. Yep. So thank you all for coming out. And if I missed any of you, you got it. I appreciate you. So, all right. Love y'all. Have a great night. And I will talk to you soon. And oh, by the way, Blue Wolf, I might do another one. Probably not tomorrow, but have to drive to Boston. But I will do another one probably this weekend because I really enjoy doing these. And it's my mindful practice. I'll just put it that way. All right. You guys have a great night. Talk to you later.